What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA playoffs. Wednesday, July 14th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA Finals. Let's take a look at this NBA showdown between the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. So at the point guard position, I like Jrue Holiday from the Milwaukee Bucks. He averaged 36.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He scored 44, 45, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 39, and 39 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes. He's going to be about 36% owned on FanDuel. He's projected at 42 fantasy points here tonight. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate, so I like Jrue Holiday here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, another point guard that I like, although he's a little pricey, I like Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns, and he averaged 37.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 32, 37, and 51 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 41, and 37 minutes. He's going to be about 44% owned on FanDuel, projected at 40.9 fantasy points here tonight. He's got that 50-plus fantasy point upside if he gets going, so I like Chris Paul here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, a deep sleeper pick. I don't really recommend this play, but he did play 24 minutes last game. He scored 18 fantasy points. It's Cameron Payne from the Phoenix Suns. He's only $8,000 FanDuel salary, and he did average 18.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 18 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. But he hasn't done much, or he hasn't played many minutes up until last game, so it's hard to know how many minutes he's going to get here tonight. So it's a deep sleeper pick. I just want to go through all the options on the slate here tonight. If you want to make your lineup different, take a look at Cameron Payne from the Phoenix Suns and just hope he can get 20 minutes or more. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns, and he averaged 37.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 19, 43, and 44 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 44, and 41 minutes. He's going to be about 45% owned. Actually, that ownership might come down a little bit because he had a bad game last game, but I prefer Devin Booker over Chris Paul here tonight because I like the lower ownership, and I think he has a big bounce back game here tonight. He's projected at 40 fantasy points. He's got a great matchup, so I like Devin Booker here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, another sleeper pick here is Pat Connington from the Milwaukee Bucks. He averaged 17 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 23 minutes per game with a 12% usage rate, and he scored 18, 22, and 13 fantasy points in the last 3 games. But the reason that I like this pick is because he played 30, 33, and 28 minutes in the last 3 games. So he's playing a bunch of minutes, which gives him some upside. He's going to be about 25% owned on FanDuel, projected at 20 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Pat Connington here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Chris Middleton from the Milwaukee Bucks. He averaged 36.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 36, 34, and 38 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 41, and 44 minutes. So he's playing monster minutes. He's going to be about 41% owned on FanDuel, projected at 44 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Chris Middleton here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, now this next pick, it's a high risk, high reward play. I'm probably not going to play a lot of this guy. He's just too hit or miss. But if you do want to make your lineup different, a guy that does have 30 plus fantasy point upside, take a look at Mikal Bridges from the Phoenix Suns. He averaged 26.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 8, 39, and 20 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 27, 37, and 29 minutes. He's going to be about 35% owned, but I expect that ownership to come down a little bit because of his bad performance last game. He's projected at 25 fantasy points here tonight. So if you want to make your lineup different, take a look at Mikal Bridges here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, another sleeper pick that I like is Cameron Johnson from the Phoenix Suns. He averaged 17.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 22, 15, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 18, and 20 minutes. He's going to be about 22% owned, and he's projected at 18 fantasy points here tonight. He's still low salary, and I like that he played 30 minutes last game. So if he can get 20 minutes or more and get you 20, 25 fantasy points, I like Cameron Johnson here versus the Milwaukee Bucks.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on.
Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. Of course, we got the stud here, Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks. He averaged 53.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 68, 71, and 52 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 40, and 35 minutes. He's going to be about 76% owned on FanDuel, projected at 57 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Giannis Antetokounmpo here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, now here's another sleeper pick for you. He's had a good couple of games playing over 30 minutes and scoring over 30 fantasy points in both of his last 2 games. Take a look at Jay Crowder from the Phoenix Suns. He averaged 21.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He scored 30, 31, and 13 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 37, and 32 minutes. So he's getting plenty of minutes, and he's got that 30 plus fantasy point upside. Projected, though, he's going to be about 28% owned on FanDuel, projected at 24 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Jay Crowder here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, a couple of other sleeper picks at this position. Now, this guy, it's definitely a high risk, high reward pick here because you don't know how many minutes he's going to play, but he's a point per minute monster. So take a look at Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks, and he averaged 24.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 21 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. He scored 21, 7, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 18, 4, and 14 minutes. So he's only going to be about 8% owned because he's just a hit or miss guy. You don't know how many minutes he's going to play. Super risky. But if he does get the minutes here, he's projected at 22 fantasy points here tonight. And he does have that upside if he can stay on the court for 18 to 22 minutes. He's got 24, 26 fantasy point upside because he's a point per minute monster. So I don't mind this play if you're looking to make your lineup different and save a bunch of salary, but it is a high risk, high reward play. He's going to make or break your lineup. So I like Bobby Portis if you're looking at a tournament play here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, another high risk, high reward play, but a guy that's going to be on the court for plenty of minutes and he's super low salary. Take a look at PJ Tucker from the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, he only averaged 12.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 26 minutes per game with a 7% usage rate, but he scored 18, 14, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 34, and 33 minutes. He's going to be about 17% owned on FanDuel, and I like this play just because of the minutes that he's out there. He can fall into some rebounds, fall into some maybe get a steal, a couple of assists, get 5 or 8 or 10 points, and rack up those fantasy points. So he's projected at 20 fantasy points here tonight, and he is super low salary just because he's going to be on the court for 30 minutes or more. He's got some upside, so I like PJ Tucker as a low salary value play here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the center position. I like DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns, and he averaged 33.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He scored 33, 44, and 48 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 24, 42, and 38 minutes. He's going to be about 36% owned on FanDuel, projected at 36 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score closer to 40 fantasy points, and his salary's I think it's reasonable. He is one of my favorite plays on the slate, so I like DeAndre Ayton here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'm just going to take Brook Lopez. I'm going to take him off my watch list. I don't think I'm going to play Brook Lopez here tonight because since Giannis has come back, he's only played 21, 27, and 22 minutes in the last 3 games. Only scored 15 fantasy points last game. So I think I'm going to pass on Brook Lopez, but he does have 30 plus fantasy point upside if he can get the minutes. So he's not a terrible play. His salary's okay. He's priced just about right for his upside, but I think I'm going to pass on Brook Lopez tonight.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.